Security guard unfairly fired receives unexpected help from a millionaire. Look what happened. Subscribe so you don't miss our exciting stories. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as Marcus Thompson stood in front of his locker at Pinnacle Towers, his hands trembling as he read the termination notice. After 15 years of dedicated service as head of security, his career had ended with a single piece of paper. The reason? Breach of protocol and compromising building security, a fabricated excuse he knew was covering something far more sinister. Just 3 days ago, Marcus had witnessed something he wasn't supposed to see. While making his usual midnight rounds on the executive floor, he'd caught Richard Walsh, the building's lead investment banker, hastily shredding documents at 2 a.m. The moment their eyes met, Marcus knew his days were numbered. Walsh's face had turned ghostly pale, and the shredder had jammed from the volume of papers being forced through it. "Everything all right, Mr. Walsh?" Marcus had asked, maintaining his professional demeanor despite the obvious suspicion of the situation. "Perfectly fine, Thompson," Walsh had replied, his voice sharp and dismissive. "Just catching up on some spring cleaning." It was the middle of October. Now, as Marcus cleared out his locker, the weight of reality crashed down on him. At 52, with a mortgage to pay and his wife Sarah's medical bills piling up, finding new employment wouldn't be easy. The security industry valued youth over experience these days, and his salary at Pinnacle had been higher than most due to his long tenure. The elevator doors opened, and Marcus's replacement stepped out, a young man who couldn't have been more than 25, wearing a crisp new uniform that still had creases from the packaging. The message was clear: out with the old, in with the new. As Marcus walked through the lobby one last time, he caught his reflection in the polished marble walls. His salt and pepper hair and the lines around his eyes told the story of countless nights spent protecting this building and its occupants. He'd missed birthdays, holidays, and family gatherings to ensure this place remained secure, and this was how they repaid his loyalty. The morning air felt different as he stepped outside, no longer an employee, but a stranger on the street. His security badge, which had granted him access to every corner of the building for the past 15 years, now lay deactivated in his pocket, a useless piece of plastic that represented everything he'd lost. Marcus hadn't made it halfway down the block when a sleek black Tesla pulled up beside him. The window rolled down, revealing a face he recognized instantly: Alexander Reed, one of the building's most prominent tenants. Unlike the other executives who barely acknowledged the security staff, Reed had always shown genuine kindness, remembering names and asking about families. "Thompson, what's with the box? Are you—" Reed's usually confident voice trailed off as realization dawned on his face. "Just got let go, Mr. Reed," Marcus replied, trying to maintain his dignity despite the circumstance. "Apparently I'm not up to standards anymore." Reed's expression darkened. "Get in the car, Thompson. I think we need to have a conversation." Marcus hesitated. In his 15 years of service, he'd learned that nothing came without strings attached, especially from wealthy individuals. But something in Reed's eyes, a mix of concern and barely contained anger, made him reconsider. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Reed, but I should probably start looking for new employment," Marcus said, shifting the box in his arms. "That's exactly what I want to talk about," Reed replied, opening the car door. "And please, call me Alex. I think we're past formalities at this point." As Marcus settled into the leather seat, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change dramatically. Whether for better or worse remained to be seen, but one thing was certain: the simple life he'd known for the past 15 years was over. The Tesla pulled away from the curb, leaving Pinnacle Towers behind. Marcus watched through the tinted windows as his former workplace disappeared from view, unaware that he would soon return under very different circumstances that would shake the very foundation of everything he thought he knew about loyalty, justice, and the price of doing what's right. Alexander Reed's private office occupied the entire top floor of a restored brownstone in the financial district. worlds away from the sterile corporate environment of Pinnacle Towers. As Marcus sank into a leather armchair that probably cost more than his annual salary, he couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between this warm, wood-paneled sanctuary and the cold marble halls he'd patrolled for 15 years. "Coffee?" Reed asked, already pouring from a chrome machine that looked more like a spacecraft than a kitchen appliance. "Or something stronger? I think the situation calls for it." "Coffee's fine," Marcus replied, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. He'd learned long ago that accepting alcohol from employers, former or potential, rarely led to good decisions. Reed settled into the chair across from him, his tailored suit a sharp reminder of the vast gulf between their social positions. But there was something in his demeanor, a hint of tension, perhaps even anger, that suggested this was more than a courtesy meeting. "I've been watching Richard Walsh for 6 months," Reed said without preamble, his words landing like stones in still water. "And I think you just became collateral damage in something much bigger than a simple document shredding incident." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "Mr. Reed." "Alex," Reed corrected gently. "Alex," Marcus amended. "Whatever you think is going on, I can't discuss internal security matters." Reed smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Marcus, they fired you. Your loyalty to Pinnacle, admirable as it is, has been repaid with betrayal. So let me ask you something. What exactly did you see that night?" Marcus hesitated, years of professional discretion warring with his growing sense of injustice. Finally he spoke, his voice low but steady. "It wasn't just documents he was shredding. Before Walsh noticed me, I saw him sorting through files with transfer records, large ones, headed to offshore accounts. And there was a name that caught my eye. Victoria Holdings." Reed's knuckles whitened around his coffee cup. "You're absolutely certain about that name?" "Yes, sir. It stuck out because it was the largest sum I'd ever seen. 9 figures being moved in the middle of the night." Reed set his cup down with deliberate care. "Victoria Holdings is a shell company, Marcus, one of dozens that Walsh has been using to embezzle funds from his clients' accounts. Small amounts at first, spread out over years, but lately he's gotten bolder, or desperate." Marcus felt the floor tilt beneath him. "How do you know all this?" "Because I've been building a case against him for the better part of a year. Walsh has stolen over $300 million from his clients, retirees, pension funds, charitable foundations, people who trusted him with their life savings." Reed's voice had taken on an edge of cold fury. "And you, my friend, just witnessed him attempting to cover his tracks." The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. His termination wasn't just about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was about silencing a potential witness. "There's more," Reed continued, pulling out his phone and pulling up a series of documents. "Your firing wasn't just Walsh's decision. He had help from someone higher up, someone who's been helping him mask these transactions for years." The name that appeared on the screen made Marcus's blood run cold. "Jonathan Pierce, CEO of Pinnacle Towers Management." "Pierce?" Marcus whispered, remembering all the times the CEO had praised his dedication, had shaken his hand at company functions. "But why would he?" "Because Pierce gets a cut of every dollar Walsh steals," Reed explained grimly. "They've been partners in this scheme from the beginning. And now they're getting ready for their endgame. One final massive transfer that will clean out dozens of accounts. After that, they'll disappear, leaving their clients with nothing." Marcus thought of all the people he'd greeted every day in the lobby. The elderly couple who ran the charitable foundation on the 3rd floor, the retired teacher who'd invested her entire pension with Walsh, the widowed mother who trusted Pinnacle with her husband's life insurance payout. "Why are you telling me all this?" Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Reed leaned forward, his expression intense. "Because I need your help to stop them. You know every inch of that building, every security protocol, every blind spot. More importantly, you know the people, who to trust, who to watch. I have the resources and the evidence, but what I don't have is someone on the inside who knows how to navigate Pinnacle's security systems. I'm not on the inside anymore, Marcus reminded him. They fired me, remember? Reed's smile was razor-sharp. That's where you're wrong. As of this morning, you're the new head of security for Reed Consulting Group, and by a remarkable coincidence, my company just leased the entire 47th floor of Pinnacle Towers. Marcus sat back, his mind racing. You planned this. I anticipated something like this might happen, Reed corrected. Walsh has been getting paranoid lately, making mistakes. I knew he'd eventually slip up in front of someone with integrity. I just didn't expect it to be you. He paused, studying Marcus's face. The question is, are you willing to help me take them down? Marcus thought about his wife Sarah, about her medical bills and their mortgage. He thought about all the people who trusted Pinnacle with their life savings. But mostly, he thought about 15 years of loyalty thrown away like yesterday's trash. What exactly would you need me to do? He asked carefully. Reed's expression turned grim. Something dangerous, something that, strictly speaking, isn't entirely legal, but something that might be the only way to save hundreds of people from losing everything they have. As Reed began to outline his plan, Marcus realized that his life hadn't just changed, it had shattered completely, only to be reformed into something entirely different. The loyal security guard who followed every rule was about to become something else entirely, a man willing to break the very protocols he'd spent years enforcing, all in the name of justice. What neither man knew was that they weren't the only ones making plans. In his office at Pinnacle Towers, Richard Walsh was having a very different conversation, one that would put both their lives in immediate danger. The weight of the new security badge felt different in Marcus's hand as he approached Pinnacle Towers the following Monday morning. The Reed Consulting Group logo gleamed on its surface, his ticket back into the building he'd protected for 15 years. But this time, he wasn't just watching for trouble, he was actively looking for it. Remember, Reed's voice came through the nearly invisible earpiece, you're just doing a routine security consultation. Nothing more suspicious than a man doing his job. Marcus kept his face neutral as he nodded to the young security guard who'd replaced him, Derek Williams. According to his badge, the kid looked nervous, probably recognizing Marcus from the handover last week. As Marcus signed in, he noticed Derek's hands trembling slightly. Everything okay, son? Marcus asked, maintaining his professional demeanor. Yes, sir, Derek replied, his voice cracking slightly. Just following the new protocols Mr. Walsh implemented. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. New protocols, implemented immediately after his firing. That couldn't be a coincidence. He made a mental note to relay this information to Reed later. The elevator ride to the 47th floor gave Marcus time to observe the changes implemented in just 1 week. Additional cameras had been installed in the corners, their red lights blinking steadily. The emergency call button had been modified, now requiring a special key to activate. Small changes that might seem like security upgrades to the untrained eye. But to Marcus, they spoke of paranoia and preparation. Reed's new offices were a stark contrast to the rest of Pinnacle's corporate atmosphere. Where other floors featured sterile whites and greys, Reed had opted for warm woods and comfortable furnishings. It was designed to put people at ease, exactly what they needed for the next phase of their plan. Marcus, Reed greeted him warmly, playing his part for any watching eyes. Thank you for coming. Shall we begin the security assessment? For the next few hours, Marcus went through the motions of a standard security consultation. He checked sight lines, tested door locks, and made notes on a clipboard. But his real mission was far more specific, identifying the changes in security protocols that might affect their plan to expose Walsh's scheme. During his lunch break, Marcus made his way to the building's cafeteria, positioning himself at a table with a clear view of Walsh's usual spot. Right on schedule, Walsh appeared with Jonathan Pierce, both men engaged in what appeared to be an intense discussion. They're here, Marcus muttered into his hidden mic, and they don't look happy. Through his earpiece, he heard Reed's quick intake of breath. Can you get any closer? Marcus carefully gathered his things and moved to dispose of his trash, positioning himself near enough to catch fragments of their conversation. "Moving too fast," Walsh was saying, his voice tight with stress. "We need more time to—" Pierce cut him off with a sharp gesture. "Time is the one thing we don't have. The audit is scheduled for—" Their voices dropped too low to hear more. But Marcus had seen enough. The strain on their faces, the way Walsh's hands shook as he reached for his water glass, these men were afraid. Back in Reed's office, Marcus shared his observations. "They're planning something soon. Very soon." Reed nodded grimly. "My sources tell me the same thing. They're accelerating their timeline. The question is, why?" Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Hospital called. Insurance denied the claim. Need to talk." Marcus felt his heart sink. In all the excitement of the past week, he'd almost forgotten about their personal crisis. Sarah's medical treatments weren't optional. They were keeping her alive, without insurance. Reed noticed his expression. "Everything okay?" "No," Marcus admitted, showing him the text. "My wife, she needs these treatments, Mr. Reed. Without them—" Reed's face softened with understanding. "Marcus, I promised to help you, and I meant it. Your wife's medical bills are covered. I've already arranged it through my foundation." Marcus felt tears pricking at his eyes. "Sir, I can't accept—" "You can and you will," Reed interrupted firmly. "Consider it back pay for 15 years of loyal service that Pinnacle failed to appreciate. Now let's focus on stopping these bastards before they can hurt anyone else." Just then, Reed's computer chimed with an incoming email. As he read it, his face turned ashen. "Marcus, look at this." The email was from one of Reed's investigators. Walsh had just initiated transfers from multiple client accounts, including the charitable foundation on the 3rd floor. The money was being routed through a complex web of shell companies, but the end destination was clear, an account in the Cayman Islands. "They're not waiting for the audit," Reed realized. "They're moving now." Marcus felt his professional calm cracking. "The Morrison Foundation, that's the elderly couple. They've put their entire life's work into helping underprivileged kids. We need to move faster," Reed declared, pulling up a series of documents on his computer. "I'm calling in the FBI, but they won't get here in time to stop the transfers. We need to—" A knock at the door interrupted him. Derek, the young security guard, stood there looking terrified. "Mr. Thompson, there's something you need to see." Marcus followed Derek to the security office where multiple monitors showed the building's camera feeds. Derek pointed to one showing the parking garage. "I noticed this while doing routine checks." The footage showed Walsh and Pierce loading several boxes into a car at 3 a.m. the previous night. But what caught Marcus's attention was what happened next. His replacement, Derek, appeared on camera, clearly accepting an envelope from Pierce. "They paid me to keep quiet," Derek admitted, his voice shaking. "But I can't. I saw what was in those boxes. Documents, hard drives, everything they're trying to destroy. I may be new, but I know right from wrong." Marcus put a hand on the young man's shoulder. "You're doing the right thing now. That's what matters." Returning to Reed's office, Marcus found him on the phone with the FBI. "They're mobilizing, but it'll take at least an hour," Reed reported. "By then, the transfers will be complete." Marcus studied the building's security layout on Reed's computer. "Maybe not. I know this building better than anyone. There's a way to shut down their operation. But it's risky, and we'll need Derek's help." As Marcus outlined his plan, he saw Reed's eyes widen. "That's incredibly dangerous," Reed cautioned. "If anything goes wrong, sometimes doing the right thing means taking risks," Marcus replied, thinking of Sarah, of the Morrisons, of all the people about to lose everything. "I've spent 15 years protecting this building. Now it's time to protect the people inside it." What they didn't know was that Walsh had his own surveillance in place. As Marcus and Reed finalized their plan, a hidden camera in Reed's office captured everything. In his private suite on the top floor, Walsh watched their discussion with growing panic. "They know everything," he told Pierce over the phone. "Thompson's back in the building, working with Reed. We need to move now." "Take care of it," Pierce ordered coldly. "Whatever it takes, they cannot be allowed to interfere." And Walsh? No witnesses this time. As Marcus prepared to put their plan into action, he had no way of knowing that he wasn't just racing against time. He was racing against men who had decided that murder was an acceptable business expense. The next 4 hours would test everything Marcus believed about loyalty, courage, and the true cost of doing what's right. Not everyone would survive the night, and those who did would never be the same. The evening shadows stretched across Pinnacle Towers as Marcus, Reed, and Derek gathered in the building's sub-basement, surrounded by the humming of electrical equipment and the soft whir of ventilation systems. It was 8:45 p.m., and the building had mostly emptied for the night, leaving only the usual security staff and a few workaholics burning the midnight oil. "One more time," Marcus said, spreading out the building schematics across a maintenance table. "We need absolute precision. Derek, you'll be our eyes in the security office, the moment Walsh or Pierce make any unusual movements. We need to know." Derek nodded, his young face set with determination. The envelope of hush money Pierce had given him lay on the table between them, evidence of his own moment of weakness, now transformed into a tool for redemption. "Alex, you'll coordinate with the FBI team. Keep them updated on our progress. But make sure they don't move in too early. If Walsh sees them coming, he'll trigger the transfers immediately." Marcus traced a path through the building's service corridors. "I'll handle the server room. 15 years of doing security sweeps means I know every inch of this place." Reed checked his watch, a timepiece that probably cost more than Marcus's car. "The FBI's tech team says we'll have a 12-minute window once we initiate the shutdown. After that, the backup generators will kick in. 12 minutes to download the evidence, prevent the transfers, and make sure Walsh and Pierce can't destroy anything else," Marcus confirmed. He didn't mention what they all knew. If they failed, hundreds of people would lose their life savings. Just then, Derek's radio crackled. "All units, be advised. Mr. Walsh has requested additional security for the executive floor. 2 guards to be posted outside his office immediately." Marcus and Reed exchanged glances. "He's nervous," Reed observed. "Good. Nervous people make mistakes. They also get desperate," Marcus countered, thinking of the cold look he'd seen in Walsh's eyes that night in the office. "Derek, get back to the security station. Remember, if anyone asks, you're just doing routine system checks." As Derek hurried away, Reed placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Are you absolutely sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. If anything goes wrong..." Marcus thought of Sarah waiting at home. He'd called her earlier, promising to explain everything soon. "Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one at all," he replied, quoting something Sarah often said. "Let's finish this." The next hour moved with agonizing slowness as they waited for their moment. Marcus used the time to double-check every aspect of their plan, while Reed coordinated with his contacts and the approaching FBI team. At precisely 10 p.m., Derek's voice came through their earpieces. "Walsh just ordered everyone off the executive floor. He's alone in his office with Pierce. They're starting the transfers." Marcus took a deep breath. "Now." Reed made a call on his secure phone, and somewhere in the building's vast electrical system, a series of carefully planned malfunctions began to cascade. The main power grid flickered once, twice, and then went dark. Emergency lights cast an eerie blue glow through the corridors as Marcus moved swiftly through the service passages he knew by heart. The backup generators wouldn't kick in for 12 minutes, a malfunction arranged by Reed's tech team. In the darkness, Marcus could hear the panicked voices of the few remaining office workers, but he remained focused on his target, the server room. "Status," he whispered into his mic. "Walsh and Pierce are still in the office," Derek reported. They're trying to complete the transfers on their phones. They look scared." "FBI teams are in position," Reed added. 6 minutes until they move in." Marcus reached the server room door, his hands steady as he used the master key he'd kept from his days as head of security. Inside, the equipment hummed softly, running on uninterrupted power supply units. He moved quickly to the main console, inserting the drive Reed had given him. "Download initiated," he reported. 8 minutes remaining. Suddenly, Derek's voice came through, tight with tension. "Mr. Thompson, they're moving. Walsh and Pierce just took the emergency stairs. They're heading down. They're coming your way." Marcus's heart raced, but his hands remained steady. "How long on the download?" 7 minutes, Reed responded. "Marcus, get out of there. We have enough evidence from Derek's testimony and the surveillance footage." But Marcus stood his ground. "Not enough to prove the whole scheme. We need those server files." He could hear footsteps in the stairwell now, growing closer. "Derek, can you slow them down?" Yes, I can lock the stairwell doors remotely. Each floor has a separate override. It won't hold them long, but—" "Do it," Marcus ordered. "Buy me as much time as you can." The next few minutes were a symphony of tension. Marcus watched the download progress bar creep forward while listening to Walsh and Pierce's increasingly angry shouts as they encountered one locked door after another. Derek, showing skills that belied his youth, managed to coordinate with the remaining security staff to create further obstacles without revealing their true purpose. 5 minutes to backup power, Reed warned. FBI is moving into position, but they're concerned about civilian safety with the power out. Marcus heard a door slam open nearby. Walsh and Pierce had finally reached the server room floor. He quickly positioned himself behind a row of servers, his heart pounding, but his mind clear. The download was at 85%. The server room door burst open and Walsh stumbled in, his expensive suit disheveled, followed by Pierce. Both men headed straight for the main console. "Stop the download!" Pierce ordered. "We have to—" He froze, finally noticing Marcus stepping out from behind the servers. "Step away from the console," Marcus said quietly. Walsh's face contorted with rage. I should have known. Pierce, take care of this rent-a-cop once and for all." Pierce reached into his jacket, and Marcus's blood ran cold at the sight of a pistol emerging. All those years of security training kicked in as he assessed his options. The server rack to his left would provide some cover, but moving would take him away from the console and the crucial download. "Don't be stupid, Thompson," Pierce said, his voice eerily calm. "Walk away now, and you might live to collect unemployment." The download was at 92%. Marcus didn't move. "You're willing to die for this?" Walsh asked incredulously. "For people you don't even know?" "I know the Morrisons," Marcus replied steadily. "I know Mrs. Chen from the 4th floor, who invested her husband's life insurance with you. I know everyone you're trying to steal from. I've spent 15 years protecting them. And I'm not stopping now." Pierce's finger tightened on the trigger. "Last chance, Thompson, though I have to admit I'm impressed by your—" A noise from the hallway made Pierce turn, and Marcus seized his moment. He launched himself forward, tackling Pierce as the gun went off. The shot went wide, sparking off a server rack. They crashed to the floor, wrestling for control of the weapon. Walsh, panicked, ran for the console, but was met by Derek appearing in the doorway, wielding his security baton with shaking hands, but unmistakable determination. The backup generators chose that moment to roar to life, flooding the room with bright light. In the sudden illumination, Marcus saw Reed in the doorway, flanked by FBI agents. Pierce, seeing his situation was hopeless, let the gun clatter to the floor. "Download complete," announced the computer console cheerfully. As the FBI agents swarmed in, Marcus felt the adrenaline drain from his body, leaving him exhausted but relieved. Reed helped him to his feet, both men watching as Walsh and Pierce were handcuffed and led away. "The transfers?" Marcus asked. "Stopped," Reed confirmed. "Every penny will be returned to its rightful owner. The Morrison Foundation is safe. Everyone is safe." Derek approached them, still gripping his baton tightly. "Mr. Thompson, I just wanted to say what you did." Marcus pulled the young guard into a quick hug. "You did good, son. Real good." As they emerged from the server room, Marcus saw the first rays of dawn breaking through the windows. The night shift was ending, and the day shift would soon arrive, unaware of the drama that had unfolded in their absence. But things would never be quite the same at Pinnacle Towers. Reed cleared his throat. Marcus, I know we talked about you working security for my company, but after tonight I have a different proposal. How would you feel about becoming my head of corporate ethics and security? In full benefits, of course, including comprehensive medical coverage for you and Sarah. Marcus felt tears pricking at his eyes. Mr. Reed, Alex, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Reed smiled. The world needs more people like you, Marcus. People who understand that true security isn't just about protecting buildings, it's about protecting people. As Marcus walked through the lobby one last time, he caught his reflection in the marble walls. He saw the same man who had walked out in disgrace a week ago, but somehow everything was different. He had protected not just the building, but the people inside it. He had stayed true to his principles, even when facing down the barrel of a gun. The morning sun felt warm on his face as he stepped outside, ready to head home to Sarah and tell her everything. But this time, instead of carrying a box of personal belongings, he carried something far more valuable: the knowledge that one person's integrity could make all the difference in the world. 3 months after the dramatic night at Pinnacle Towers, Marcus Thompson sat in his new corner office at Reed Consulting Group, reviewing security protocols for their expanding ethical investment division. The wall-to-wall windows offered a clear view of his old workplace, where things had changed dramatically since Walsh and Pierce's arrests. The morning newspaper lay on his desk, its headlines still sending ripples through the financial community. Walsh and Pierce plead guilty. Pinnacle Towers executives face 25 years. The article detailed how their scheme had nearly stolen over $300 million from unsuspecting clients. But what caught Marcus's eye was the smaller headline below. Whistleblowers praised, security guard and young officer prevent financial catastrophe. His phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Don't forget, Morrison's dinner tonight at 6. Bringing your famous apple pie? Marcus smiled, remembering how the elderly couple had insisted on hosting a dinner to thank him properly. In the months since the incident, Harold and Eleanor Morrison had become like family. Their foundation, saved from Walsh's theft, was now thriving under new management. Specifically, a board that included both Marcus and Sarah as advisory members. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Derek stood there, looking sharp in his new suit. The young man had also found a home at Reed Consulting, where his technical skills and proven integrity had earned him a position in cybersecurity. Morning, Mr. Thompson, Derek said, still maintaining a formal tone despite Marcus's frequent insistence on first names. Mr. Reed asked me to remind you about the investor meeting at 11. Thanks, Derek, and please, for the 100th time, it's Marcus. He studied the young man's face, noting how much confidence he'd gained since that night. How's the night school going? Derek's face lit up. Really good. Professor Jenkins says my thesis on ethical corporate security practices is one of the best she's seen. Having real-world experience really helps. Experience is a good teacher, Marcus agreed, thinking of his own journey. Sometimes the hardest lessons leave the most lasting impact. After Derek left, Marcus turned back to the window, remembering the events that had followed that fateful night. The FBI investigation had uncovered far more than just Walsh and Pierce's scheme. Dozens of smaller corruptions had come to light, leading to a complete overhaul of Pinnacle's management structure. The elevators dinged, and Alexander Reed strode into the office suite, bringing his characteristic energy with him. Marcus, just the man I wanted to see. Got a minute? Always, Alex. Their relationship had evolved from employer-employee to genuine friendship, built on mutual respect and shared values. Reed settled into one of the visitor chairs, loosening his tie. I just came from a board meeting at Pinnacle. They're implementing all of your recommended security and ethics protocols. Every single one. Marcus nodded, satisfaction warming his chest. The protocols he'd designed weren't just about physical security. They included ethical guidelines, whistleblower protections, and transparent financial practices. How's the new CEO handling things? Amanda Chen is doing an excellent job, Reed replied, referring to the former fourth-floor tenant who'd nearly lost her husband's life insurance to Walsh's scheme. Her appointment had raised eyebrows in the financial community, but her commitment to ethical business practices was already reshaping Pinnacle's culture. She asked me to pass along a message. They're naming the new ethics training center after you. Marcus felt his face flush. That's really not necessary. Maybe not, Reed agreed, but it's appropriate. Your actions didn't just save people's money, Marcus. You showed an entire corporation that integrity isn't just a word in their mission statement. It's a choice people make every day. A commotion in the outer office drew their attention. Sarah had arrived early, her medical appointment having finished sooner than expected. The past 3 months of proper treatment, fully covered by Reed Consulting's comprehensive insurance, had worked wonders. Her color was better, her energy restored. "Marcus!" she called out, practically glowing with excitement. "You won't believe who I just ran into downstairs!" Behind her came Derek's replacement at Pinnacle, looking significantly more confident than he had 3 months ago. With him was Harold Morrison, who'd taken to mentoring the young security staff, sharing his business experience and wisdom. "Hope we're not interrupting," Harold said, his kind eyes twinkling. "But Eleanor insisted I deliver these personally." He held up a basket of his wife's famous homemade cookies. "She says they're brain food for all the good work you're doing." Marcus watched as his old and new worlds merged seamlessly in his office. Sarah chatting with Reed about the Foundation's latest projects, Derek discussing security innovations with his successor, Harold, offering wisdom earned through decades of business experience. This, he realized, was what real security looked like. Not just locked doors and surveillance cameras, but people looking out for each other. Reed caught his eye and nodded toward the conference room. "Should we tell them now?" Marcus smiled. "Might as well." Reed cleared his throat, gathering everyone's attention. "We have an announcement to make. As you know, Reed Consulting has been expanding our ethical business practices division. We've been approached by several major corporations wanting to implement similar programs. They've seen what happened at Pinnacle, and they want to prevent it from happening to them. What we need," Marcus continued, "is a team of people who understand that security isn't just about protecting assets, it's about protecting people. We're establishing a new division, the Corporate Integrity and Security Training Institute." Sarah's eyes widened as she realized what was coming. She'd been helping Marcus develop this idea for weeks. "Harold," Marcus said, turning to the elderly businessman, "we'd like you to head up the business ethics training program. Your experience and wisdom are exactly what we need." Harold's face broke into a wide smile. "Well, I was getting bored with retirement anyway." "Derek," Reed continued, "you'll oversee the technical security integration team. Your experience bridging old and new security practices is invaluable." Derek stood straighter, pride evident in his bearing. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." "And you," Marcus said, turning to the current Pinnacle security guard, "if you're interested, we have an opening for a field trainer. Someone who can help other security teams learn from what happened at Pinnacle." The young guard's eyes lit up with opportunity, much as Marcus imagined his own had when Reed first offered him a chance at redemption. Sarah squeezed Marcus's hand, understanding the beauty of the moment. Her husband hadn't just found a new job, he'd found a way to multiply the impact of his integrity, creating ripples that would affect countless lives. That evening, as they gathered around the Morrisons' dinner table, not as victims and heroes, but as friends and family, Marcus looked at the faces surrounding him. Reed, who had seen potential where others saw only an aging security guard. Derek, who had chosen integrity over easy money. The Morrisons, who had transformed their gratitude into ongoing service to others. Sarah, whose strength had never wavered, even in the darkest moments. As Eleanor Morrison served her famous pot roast, conversations flowed freely about the future, plans for the training institute, Upcoming foundation projects, Derek's thesis, Sarah's improving health. The talk was punctuated by laughter, the kind that comes from people who have faced challenges together and emerged stronger. Marcus thought about the words that would soon hang in Pinnacle's new ethics training center. Integrity is not just about doing the right thing when someone is watching. It's about doing the right thing, even when it costs you everything. He hadn't lost everything that night 3 months ago. Instead, he'd gained something far more valuable than job security or a steady paycheck. He'd gained a purpose, a community, and the knowledge that one person's commitment to doing right could create lasting change. As he looked around the table at his expanded family, Marcus remembered something his father had told him long ago. Success isn't measured by what you get, son. It's measured by what you give back. By that measure, Marcus Thompson, former security guard, current ethics director, and permanent guardian of what was right, was truly a successful man. The sound of Sarah's laughter mixed with Eleanor's while Reed and Harold debated business ethics, and Derek excitedly shared his latest security innovations. This, Marcus realized, was true security, not locks and cameras, but people committed to protecting what matters most: integrity, community, and the belief that doing the right thing, no matter the cost, was always worth it. What would you do in Marcus's position? Sometimes the hardest choices come down to doing what's right, even when it could cost you everything. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Would you have had the courage to stand up against corruption like Marcus did? What do you think about Alexander Reed's role in the story? Was he truly just a good person trying to help, or did he have other motives we don't know about? Let us know your theories. Do you think Marcus made the right choice in giving Derek a second chance after he initially accepted the bribe? How important is redemption in shaping someone's character? If you enjoyed this story about integrity and justice, you'll love our next video about a small-town teacher who uncovered a scheme that changed her entire community. Click the video on your screen now to watch that incredible story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss our new stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one at all.